Imagine a world where Martin Luther King Jr. never existed. The civil rights movement in the United States would have taken a different path without his leadership and influence. King was a pivotal figure in the fight for racial equality, advocating for nonviolent protests and civil disobedience. His powerful speeches and tireless activism inspired millions and helped bring about significant changes in the country. Without King, the civil rights movement may have lacked a unifying figure to rally behind. It's possible that other leaders would have emerged to fill the void, but the movement may have been more fragmented and less cohesive. The strategies and tactics employed by King, such as the Montgomery bus boycott and the March on Washington, may not have been as widely adopted or successful. The absence of King could also have affected the public perception of the civil rights movement. His moral authority and message of peace and unity resonated with people across the country and around the world. Without King's influence, the movement may have been perceived differently by both supporters and opponents, potentially impacting its overall effectiveness. In this alternate history, it's difficult to predict how the civil rights movement would have unfolded without Martin Luther King Jr. His absence would have undoubtedly changed the course of history, shaping the fight for equality in ways that we can only imagine. The Montgomery bus boycott, a pivotal event in the civil rights movement, was a powerful demonstration of nonviolent resistance against racial segregation. At the forefront of this movement was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whose leadership and charisma inspired thousands to join the boycott and fight for equality. King's role in organizing the boycott, delivering powerful speeches, and advocating for civil rights legislation cannot be understated. However, it is important to recognize that the success of the Montgomery bus boycott was not solely dependent on King's leadership. The boycott was a collective effort that involved the participation of many individuals, including Rosa Parks, E.D. Nixon, Joanne Robinson, and countless others who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to organize and sustain the boycott. These grassroots activists played a crucial role in mobilizing the African American community, spreading awareness about the injustice of segregation, and coordinating the logistics of the boycott. While King's leadership undoubtedly provided moral guidance and strategic direction to the movement, it was the collective action of the community that ultimately led to the success of the boycott. The determination, resilience, and unity of the people who participated in the boycott were essential factors in its effectiveness. In conclusion, while Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s leadership was instrumental in the Montgomery bus boycott, it is likely that the boycott would have still been successful to some extent even without his specific involvement. The strength of the community's resolve and their commitment to the cause were fundamental to the boycott's impact and legacy. King's influence on inspiring other civil rights leaders and activists cannot be overstated. His dedication to nonviolent resistance and his powerful speeches calling for equality and justice resonated with individuals around the world. Many who followed in his footsteps were motivated by his courage and unwavering commitment to the cause. Leaders such as Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, and Cesar Chavez were among those inspired by King's example to stand up against injustice and fight for civil rights. His impact extended beyond his lifetime, continuing to inspire new generations of activists to push for social change and equality. King's legacy serves as a beacon of hope and a reminder of the power of peaceful protest and perseverance in the face of adversity. In the realm of alternate histories and what-if scenarios, one intriguing question emerges. How would the absence of key figures, such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., have impacted the nonviolent resistance tactics utilized during the civil rights movement? Dr. King was a central figure in the movement, advocating for peaceful protests, civil disobedience, and nonviolent demonstrations to bring about social change. His philosophy of nonviolence, inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, was instrumental in shaping the strategies employed by civil rights activists in their fight against racial segregation and discrimination. Without Dr. King's leadership and influence, the landscape of the civil rights movement would have likely shifted significantly. His ability to mobilize and inspire masses of people to peacefully protest and resist injustice played a crucial role in the movement's success. His speeches, such as the iconic "I Have a Dream" speech, resonated with people across the country and galvanized support for the cause. In a hypothetical scenario where Dr. King was absent, it is possible that the nonviolent resistance tactics may have faced greater challenges. Without his charismatic leadership and moral authority, there may have been internal divisions among civil rights groups on the most effective strategies to pursue. The movement could have potentially become more fragmented, leading to differing approaches and potentially a less unified front against segregation and discrimination. Additionally, Dr. King's emphasis on nonviolence as a moral imperative and strategic choice helped to garner broader public support and sympathy for the civil rights movement. His principles of love, forgiveness, and reconciliation struck a chord with many Americans and helped to distinguish the movement from more radical and violent forms of protest. In conclusion, the absence of Dr. King would have undoubtedly had a profound impact on the nonviolent resistance tactics used during the civil rights movement. His leadership, vision, and commitment to peaceful protest were instrumental in shaping the movement's strategies and ultimately its success in bringing about significant social change in America. Number 5. Without King, who would have emerged as the face of the civil rights movement? In the realm of alternate histories and what-if scenarios, the question of who would have emerged as the face of the civil rights movement in the absence of Martin Luther King Jr. is a thought-provoking one. King's significant impact and leadership in the fight for racial equality during the civil rights movement are undeniable. However, if we were to speculate on potential alternate paths, several other influential figures could have risen to prominence in his absence. One such figure could have been Malcolm X, a charismatic and outspoken advocate for Black empowerment and self-defense. His strong convictions and powerful oratory skills could have positioned him as a central figure in the civil rights struggle, offering a different approach and perspective compared to King's nonviolent philosophy. Another potential candidate could have been Rosa Parks, whose pivotal role in the Montgomery bus boycott helped spark nationwide attention to the issue of racial segregation. Parks' courage and steadfast commitment to equality could have propelled her to a leadership role within the movement, inspiring others to continue the fight for justice. Additionally, activists such as Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer, who played crucial roles in organizing grassroots movements and advocating for voting rights, could have also emerged as prominent voices in the absence of King. Their dedication to empowering marginalized communities and challenging systemic oppression could have led them to the forefront of the civil rights struggle. Ultimately, the question of who would have emerged as the face of the civil rights movement without King is a complex one, as numerous factors and individuals contributed to the advancement of the cause. While King's leadership was undeniably influential, the potential for other dynamic and passionate leaders to step into the spotlight highlights the resilience and diversity of the movement as a whole. Delving into the realm of alternate histories and what-if scenarios, one intriguing question arises. Would the historic March on Washington in 1963 have been organized without Martin Luther King Jr.'s influential leadership? This pivotal event, which saw hundreds of thousands of people gather in support of civil rights and racial equality, is often synonymous with King's iconic "I Have a Dream" speech. His charisma, vision, and ability to mobilize the masses played a significant role in the success and impact of the march. However, considering the broader context of the civil rights movement during that era, it is plausible to explore the hypothetical scenario where King's influence was not a driving force behind the organization of the march. The civil rights movement of the 1960s was a collective effort, with numerous activists, leaders, and organizations working towards the goal of equality and justice. While King was undeniably a central figure, there were other prominent voices and influencers within the movement who could have potentially taken the lead in organizing such a significant demonstration. Leaders like John Lewis, A. Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, and many others played crucial roles in shaping the strategies and actions of the movement. Had King not been present or involved in the planning of the March on Washington, it is conceivable that another leader or coalition of leaders could have stepped up to fill the void and organize the event. The momentum and energy within the civil rights movement at that time were driving forces that transcended individual personalities. The widespread support for the cause, coupled with the growing public awareness and outrage over racial injustices, created a fertile ground for mass mobilization and collective action. In this alternate scenario, the March on Washington may have still taken place, albeit with potentially different dynamics and outcomes. The absence of King's stirring oratory and moral authority could have shifted the tone and messaging of the event, but the underlying message of unity, equality, and justice would likely have remained central. The collective passion and determination of the participants, fueled by their shared commitment to the cause, could have propelled the march to similar heights of impact and significance. Ultimately, while Martin Luther King Jr.'s influence was undeniably profound in shaping the civil rights movement and events like the March on Washington, it is important to recognize the collaborative nature of social movements and the multitude of voices that contribute to their success. In the tapestry of history, different threads can weave together to create powerful narratives of change and progress, even in the absence of a proof. Imagine a world where Martin Luther King Jr. was not present during the time of the civil rights movement in the United States. His absence would undoubtedly have had a significant impact on the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. King was a central figure in the fight for racial equality and played a crucial role in mobilizing support for civil rights legislation. Without King's leadership and influence, the civil rights movement may have lacked the unifying force that he provided. His powerful speeches, nonviolent protests, and ability to bring people together were instrumental in pushing for change. King's moral authority and commitment to nonviolent resistance were key factors in shaping the public perception of the movement and gaining sympathy for the cause. Furthermore, King's advocacy for the Civil Rights Act of 1964 was pivotal in garnering political support for the legislation. His influence on policymakers and his ability to rally public opinion were essential in pressuring Congress to pass the landmark bill. Without King's presence, the momentum behind the civil rights movement may have faltered, leading to delays or even failure in passing the legislation. In a world without Martin Luther King Jr., the struggle for civil rights may have faced greater challenges and taken longer to achieve significant progress. King's absence would have left a void in the movement that would have been difficult to fill, potentially altering the course of history and delaying the advancement of civil rights in the United States. In exploring the realm of alternate histories and what-if scenarios, one cannot overlook the pivotal role that King played in bridging the gap between different civil rights organizations. King's leadership and vision for equality and justice not only inspired individuals within his own organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, but also influenced and connected with other prominent civil rights groups of his time. By actively promoting collaboration and unity among various organizations, King sought to amplify the collective voice and impact of the civil rights movement. King's efforts to bridge the gap between different civil rights organizations were particularly evident during key events such as the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom in 1963. This historic gathering brought together leaders from diverse backgrounds and affiliations, including John Lewis of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and A. Philip Randolph of the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. Through this demonstration of solidarity and shared goals, King effectively showcased the power of a united front in advocating for civil rights and social change. Furthermore, King's emphasis on nonviolent resistance and peaceful protest resonated with a wide range of individuals and groups, transcending organizational boundaries. His philosophy of love, compassion, and nonviolence served as a unifying force that attracted supporters from different backgrounds and ideologies. By embodying these principles in his actions and speeches, King not only inspired his contemporaries, but also laid the groundwork for future generations of activists and leaders to build upon his legacy of unity and cooperation. In essence, King's role in bridging the gap between different civil rights organizations was instrumental in fostering collaboration, solidarity, and mutual respect within the broader movement. His ability to connect with individuals from various backgrounds and perspectives helped to create a more inclusive and cohesive vision for achieving social justice and equality. Through his leadership and advocacy, King exemplified the power of unity in advancing the cause of civil rights and shaping the course of history. In an alternate history, where King was absent during the Selma to Montgomery marches for voting rights, the civil rights movement would have faced a significant challenge. King's leadership and strategic guidance were instrumental in the success of the marches, which were pivotal in advocating for equal voting rights for African Americans. Without King's presence, the movement may have lacked the unifying force needed to mobilize supporters and navigate the complexities of organizing such a large-scale protest. King's absence could have also affected the morale and determination of the marchers, as his inspiring speeches and nonviolent philosophy played a crucial role in motivating and empowering the participants. Additionally, King's ability to attract media attention and garner public sympathy was key in bringing national awareness to the struggles faced by African Americans in the South. Furthermore, King's absence might have led to a lack of effective negotiation and communication with local authorities, potentially resulting in heightened tensions and increased risk of violence during the marches. King's skill in diplomacy and conflict resolution was essential in ensuring the safety of the protesters and preventing escalation of conflicts with law enforcement. Overall, King's absence from the Selma to Montgomery marches would have had a profound impact on the course and outcome of the events, potentially hindering the progress of the civil rights movement in its fight for voting rights and equality. In considering the impact of King's philosophy of nonviolent protest, it's essential to acknowledge his pivotal role in championing this approach. King's leadership was instrumental in popularizing the idea of nonviolent resistance as a powerful tool for social change. His eloquence, moral authority, and personal example inspired countless individuals to adopt this philosophy and join the civil rights movement. Without King's leadership, it is unlikely that nonviolent protest would have been embraced to the same extent. King's ability to articulate the principles of nonviolence and connect them to the broader struggle for justice gave the movement a sense of purpose and direction. His leadership provided a moral compass that guided activists through the challenges and obstacles they faced. Moreover, King's charisma helped to garner widespread support for the civil rights movement both domestically and internationally. His message of love, equality, and unity resonated with people from all walks of life, transcending barriers of race, religion, and nationality. This broad appeal was crucial in building a broad-based movement that could effectively challenge entrenched systems of oppression. In conclusion, while the philosophy of nonviolent protest existed before King, it was his leadership that brought it to the forefront of the civil rights movement and made it a powerful force for change. Without his vision, courage, and moral authority, it is unlikely that nonviolent resistance would have achieved the same level of impact and influence that it did. King's leadership was essential in shaping the course of history and inspiring future generations to continue the fight for justice and equality. King's speeches and sermons played a crucial role in shaping the message and goals of the civil rights movement. Through his powerful oratory skills and impassioned delivery, King was able to inspire and mobilize people to fight for equality and justice. His most famous speech, "I Have a Dream," delivered during the March on Washington in 1963, highlighted his vision of a future where racial harmony and equality prevailed. This speech resonated deeply with people across the country and galvanized support for the civil rights movement. Beyond his iconic "I Have a Dream" speech, King's sermons also played a significant role in shaping the goals of the movement. As a Baptist minister, King often drew upon biblical teachings and moral principles to justify the fight for civil rights. His sermons emphasized the importance of love, nonviolence, and justice, providing a moral framework for the movement's goals and tactics. Overall, King's speeches and sermons served to articulate the moral imperative of the civil rights movement and inspire people to take action. His message of hope, love, and unity continues to resonate today, reminding us of the enduring power of his words and the impact they had on shaping the course of history. In an alternate history where the iconic leader Martin Luther King Jr. did not emerge as a prominent figure in the civil rights movement, the relationship between civil rights activists and the federal government could have taken a different trajectory. Without King's influential presence and powerful advocacy for nonviolent protest, the dynamics of the movement may have shifted in various ways. One possible scenario could be a more fractured and decentralized approach to activism, with different factions pursuing their own strategies and goals. This could have led to a lack of unified vision and coordination, making it harder to achieve significant progress in the fight for civil rights. Without King's ability to rally diverse groups around a common cause, the movement may have struggled to gain widespread support and momentum. On the other hand, the absence of King could have also created opportunities for other leaders to rise to prominence and shape the movement in their own ways. Different voices and perspectives may have emerged, offering new strategies and tactics for advancing civil rights. This could have led to a more diverse and dynamic movement, with a range of approaches being explored to challenge systemic racism and discrimination. In terms of the relationship with the federal government, without King's moral authority and strategic influence, civil rights activists may have faced greater resistance and hostility from the authorities. The absence of a charismatic leader like King to engage in dialogue and negotiation with government officials could have made it harder to push for meaningful policy changes and legislative reforms. Overall, the impact of King's absence on the relationship between civil rights activists and the federal government would have been significant, shaping the course of the movement in ways that are difficult to predict. The absence of a central figure like King could have led to both challenges and opportunities for the advancement of civil rights in the United States. The assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1968 had a profound impact on the trajectory of the civil rights movement in the United States. Dr. King was a central figure in the movement, known for his commitment to nonviolent protest and his powerful speeches advocating for racial equality and justice. His death left a void in the leadership of the movement and sparked widespread outrage and mourning across the country. In the immediate aftermath of Dr. King's assassination, there was a surge of riots and civil unrest in many cities as people reacted to the tragic loss of such an influential and inspirational leader. The assassination also deepened divisions within the civil rights movement itself, as different leaders and organizations struggled to fill the leadership vacuum left by Dr. King's death. Despite these challenges, Dr. King's assassination ultimately served to galvanize support for the civil rights movement and to underscore the urgency of the fight for racial equality. His death brought renewed attention to the issues of systemic racism and social injustice, prompting many to recommit themselves to the cause of civil rights. In the years following Dr. King's assassination, the civil rights movement continued to make progress in advancing the rights and opportunities of African Americans and other marginalized groups. While the movement faced setbacks and challenges, the legacy of Dr. King's leadership and his vision of a more just and equitable society continued to inspire activists and advocates for civil rights. Overall, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. marked a turning point in the civil rights movement, leading to both moments of crisis and moments of renewed determination and solidarity. Dr. King's enduring influence and the ongoing struggle for civil rights serve as a reminder of the importance of perseverance and commitment in the fight for social justice and equality. Imagine a world where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. never emerged as a prominent figure in the civil rights movement. What impact would his absence have had on the push for desegregation in schools and public spaces? King's leadership was instrumental in advocating for racial equality and justice during a time of deep-seated discrimination and segregation. His powerful speeches and nonviolent protests inspired a generation to fight for civil rights and challenge the status quo. Without King's influence, the momentum towards desegregation may have been slower and faced greater resistance. His strategic approach to organizing peaceful demonstrations and his ability to mobilize masses of people were key factors in advancing the cause of integration. King's absence could have led to a more fragmented and less unified movement, making it harder to sustain pressure on policymakers and the public to dismantle segregation laws. Furthermore, King's moral authority and commitment to nonviolent resistance helped to shape the narrative of the civil rights movement and gain widespread support both domestically and internationally. His absence could have left a void in leadership that may have been difficult to fill, potentially resulting in a less cohesive and effective movement. Overall, King's absence would have undoubtedly influenced the push for desegregation in schools and public spaces, potentially altering the course of history and the timeline of civil rights progress in the United States. The impact of his absence on the movement's strategies, tactics, and outcomes would have been significant, highlighting the pivotal role that individuals can play in shaping historical events and social change. King's impact extended beyond the borders of the United States as he actively engaged with international movements for human rights and social justice. He drew inspiration from figures like Mahatma Gandhi, who led a nonviolent resistance movement in India. In fact, King's visit to India in 1959 deepened his commitment to nonviolent activism. He also expressed solidarity with struggles for independence and equality in other parts of the world, such as the anti-colonial movements in Africa. King's influence reverberated globally, inspiring individuals and groups fighting for civil rights and social justice in various countries. His message of equality and nonviolent resistance resonated with people facing oppression and discrimination worldwide. King's leadership in the American civil rights movement helped shine a spotlight on the universal struggle for human dignity and equality. Through his speeches and actions, King became a symbol of hope and courage for those striving for a more just and equitable society, both in the United States and abroad. King's absence would have had a profound impact on the development of Black empowerment and pride movements. Without his leadership and influence, the civil rights movement may have faced significant challenges and setbacks. King's ability to inspire and mobilize people through his powerful speeches and nonviolent approach played a vital role in advancing the cause of racial equality. His absence could have led to a more fragmented and less cohesive movement, potentially slowing down progress towards achieving equal rights for African Americans. Additionally, King's assassination in 1968 sparked widespread outrage and grief within the Black community, fueling a renewed sense of urgency and determination to continue the fight for justice. The loss of such a prominent figure could have galvanized activists to push even harder for change, leading to a more radical and confrontational approach to addressing systemic racism and discrimination. Furthermore, King's absence may have also altered the trajectory of Black cultural movements, such as the Black Power movement, which emerged as a response to the perceived limitations of the civil rights movement. Without King's leadership, the dynamics of power and influence within these movements could have shifted, potentially resulting in different ideologies and strategies being prioritized. Overall, King's absence would have undoubtedly left a significant void in the struggle for racial equality and social justice, impacting the course of history for Black empowerment and pride movements in profound ways. As we delve into the realm of alternate histories and what-if scenarios, one cannot help but ponder the impact that figures like Martin Luther King Jr. had on the mobilization of young people during the civil rights movement. King's influence on the youth of that era was profound, serving as a beacon of hope and inspiration for countless individuals who sought equality and justice. His powerful speeches, unwavering commitment to nonviolent protest, and unwavering belief in the power of peaceful resistance resonated deeply with young people across the nation. King's message of unity, equality, and love touched the hearts of many young activists, galvanizing them to take a stand against injustice and discrimination. His leadership and moral authority played a crucial role in mobilizing a new generation of civil rights advocates who were willing to risk their lives and freedom to fight for a more just and equitable society. The youth who were inspired by King's teachings became the driving force behind many pivotal moments in the civil rights movement, from sit-ins and marches to voter registration drives and community organizing efforts. King's ability to connect with young people on a personal and emotional level was instrumental in mobilizing them to join the fight for civil rights. By appealing to their sense of justice, empathy, and moral responsibility, he was able to ignite a passion for social change that reverberated throughout the nation. King's legacy continues to inspire young people today, reminding us of the power of collective action and the enduring impact of individuals who dare to dream of a better world. Without the leadership of Martin Luther King Jr., the civil rights movement in the United States faced a significant shift in its trajectory, impacting the struggle for fair housing and employment opportunities for African Americans in particular. In the absence of King's influential voice and powerful advocacy, the movement may have taken on a different tone and direction. King's emphasis on nonviolent resistance and his ability to mobilize large numbers of supporters played a crucial role in shaping the movement's strategies and objectives. In the realm of fair housing, without King's leadership, the push for equal access to housing for African Americans may have encountered greater challenges. King's efforts in addressing housing discrimination and advocating for fair housing policies helped to bring attention to the systemic barriers faced by African Americans in securing quality housing. His absence could have slowed down progress in this area, as his ability to galvanize support and push for legislative change was a driving force behind many of the advancements in fair housing laws. Similarly, in terms of employment opportunities, King's influence on the civil rights movement extended to addressing economic injustices faced by African Americans. His calls for economic equality and fair employment practices resonated with many who saw economic empowerment as a crucial component of achieving racial equality. Without King's leadership, the movement may have struggled to maintain its focus on economic justice issues, potentially impacting efforts to combat employment discrimination and secure better job opportunities for African Americans. Overall, the absence of King from the civil rights movement would have undoubtedly altered the course of history, including the struggle for fair housing and employment opportunities for African Americans. While the movement was comprised of many dedicated individuals and organizations, King's unique ability to mobilize support, articulate a vision for equality, and challenge systemic injustices played a pivotal role in shaping the movement's objectives and strategies. His legacy continues to inspire ongoing efforts to address racial disparities and advance equality for all. In an alternate history, where King was absent during the fight for voting rights in the South, the civil rights movement could have taken a different path. King played a significant role in advocating for voting rights and leading nonviolent protests that brought attention to the injustices faced by African Americans. Without his leadership and influence, the movement may have lacked a unifying figure to rally behind. King's absence could have resulted in a more fragmented civil rights movement, with different leaders taking on various approaches to achieve voting rights. This could have led to internal conflicts and disagreements on strategy, potentially slowing down progress towards securing voting rights for African Americans in the South. Additionally, King's absence may have impacted the visibility and momentum of the voting rights movement. His powerful speeches and ability to mobilize large numbers of supporters were instrumental in raising awareness and garnering national and international support for the cause. Without him, the fight for voting rights might not have received the same level of attention and support, potentially prolonging the struggle for equality at the ballot box. Overall, King's absence in the fight for voting rights in the South could have altered the course of history, affecting the strategies, unity, visibility, and progress of the civil rights movement in its quest for equal voting rights for African Americans. In the world of alternate histories and what-if scenarios, one intriguing question arises. What role did King play in challenging economic inequality and advocating for workers' rights? Imagine if historical figures like Martin Luther King Jr. had taken a different path in their fight for justice. Would economic disparities have been addressed differently? King, known for his pivotal role in the civil rights movement, also made significant contributions to the labor movement. His advocacy extended beyond racial equality to encompass economic justice for all. In this alternate scenario, King's influence on workers' rights could have been even more pronounced. He might have collaborated with labor unions, organized strikes, and lobbied for fair wages and better working conditions. His powerful oratory skills and moral authority could have galvanized workers across different industries to demand their rights. By amplifying the voices of the marginalized and oppressed in the workforce, King could have brought about transformative change in the economic landscape. Moreover, King's commitment to nonviolent resistance and civil disobedience could have inspired a new wave of labor activism that prioritized peaceful protest and collective bargaining. His vision of a society where economic opportunities are accessible to all could have reshaped policies and practices in the labor market. Through his tireless efforts, King could have laid the groundwork for a more equitable and inclusive economy that values the dignity and rights of every worker. In this alternate history, King's legacy as a champion of economic equality and workers' rights would have left a lasting impact on future generations. His unwavering dedication to justice and compassion for the downtrodden would have set a powerful example for activists and leaders striving to create a more just and equitable society. King's influence on economic inequality and labor rights would have been a defining aspect of his legacy, reminding us of the interconnectedness of social justice movements and the importance of solidarity in the pursuit of a fairer world. Imagine a world where history took a different turn, where pivotal moments unfolded in unexpected ways, giving rise to alternative realities. This is the realm of alternate histories and what-if scenarios, where we explore the possibilities of how things could have been different. One fascinating aspect of this exploration is delving into the impact of key figures on historical movements and events. In the case of the Poor People's Campaign, the involvement of King played a significant role in shaping the movement's goals and strategies. King's leadership and vision brought a new dimension to the campaign, emphasizing the intersectionality of issues such as poverty, racism, and economic inequality. By highlighting the plight of marginalized communities and advocating for systemic change, King brought a sense of urgency and moral clarity to the movement. King's commitment to nonviolent resistance also influenced the tactics employed by the Poor People's Campaign, emphasizing the power of peaceful protest and civil disobedience in effecting social change. His ability to mobilize and inspire people from diverse backgrounds to join together in solidarity strengthened the movement and amplified its message. Furthermore, King's moral authority and charisma helped to garner national attention and support for the Poor People's Campaign, bringing the struggles of the disenfranchised into the spotlight and forcing policymakers to confront issues of economic injustice and inequality. His willingness to challenge the status quo and confront entrenched power structures paved the way for a more inclusive and equitable society. Overall, King's involvement in the Poor People's Campaign left an indelible mark on the movement, shaping its goals and strategies in profound ways. By infusing the campaign with his principles of justice, equality, and nonviolence, King helped to galvanize a grassroots movement that sought to create a more just and compassionate society for all. The Southern Christian Leadership Conference, SCLC, played a significant role in the civil rights movement during the 1960s. Led by prominent figures such as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the organization advocated for nonviolent protests and civil disobedience to bring about social change. However, the question arises, would the SCLC have been as influential without King's leadership? Dr. King's leadership undoubtedly had a profound impact on the SCLC and the broader civil rights movement. His powerful oratory skills, strategic thinking, and unwavering commitment to nonviolent resistance inspired millions of people across the nation to join the fight for equality and justice. King's ability to mobilize supporters, attract media attention, and negotiate with government officials were instrumental in advancing the goals of the SCLC. Without King's leadership, the SCLC may have struggled to maintain its cohesion and momentum. His moral authority and vision provided a unifying force for the organization, helping to navigate internal disagreements and external challenges. King's assassination in 1968 dealt a significant blow to the SCLC and the civil rights movement as a whole, underscoring the central role he played in shaping both. While the SCLC comprised a team of dedicated activists and leaders, including Ralph Abernathy, Joseph Lowery, and Andrew Young, it is unlikely that the organization would have achieved the same level of influence and impact without King's charismatic leadership. His ability to connect with diverse audiences, bridge ideological divides, and inspire collective action was a unique asset that propelled the SCLC to the forefront of the struggle for civil rights. In conclusion, King's leadership was pivotal in elevating the SCLC to a position of influence and shaping the course of the civil rights movement. While the organization would have continued its work without him, it is unlikely that it would have attained the same level of prominence and success. King's legacy continues to resonate today, reminding us of the power of leadership in driving social change and inspiring future generations to carry on the fight for justice and equality. In an alternate history, where Martin Luther King Jr. was absent from the civil rights movement, the relationship between the movement and religious institutions would have likely taken a different course. King's role as a prominent leader and preacher played a crucial part in bridging the gap between the civil rights movement and religious communities. His powerful speeches, inspired by his Christian beliefs, resonated with both activists and those within religious institutions. Without King's influence, the civil rights movement might have faced more challenges in gaining support from religious organizations. King's ability to frame the fight for civil rights as a moral and spiritual imperative helped to galvanize people of faith to join the cause. His nonviolent approach, rooted in Christian principles of love and justice, appealed to many religious leaders and congregations. In King's absence, the relationship between the civil rights movement and religious institutions might have been more strained. Without his charismatic leadership and moral authority, it could have been harder to maintain a unified front among activists and religious groups. The movement might have struggled to gain the same level of widespread support and momentum that King was able to generate. Overall, King's absence would have undoubtedly altered the dynamics between the civil rights movement and religious institutions. His unique ability to connect the struggle for civil rights with spiritual values was a key factor in shaping the movement's narrative and mobilizing support from diverse religious communities. King's impact on promoting unity and solidarity among diverse communities within the movement was profound. Through his powerful messages of love, nonviolence, and equality, he brought together people from all walks of life to fight for civil rights and social justice. King's ability to connect with individuals regardless of their race, background, or beliefs helped bridge gaps and build bridges between different communities. He emphasized the importance of coming together in solidarity to achieve common goals, inspiring people to set aside differences and work towards a shared vision of a more just and equitable society. King's leadership in promoting unity and solidarity within the movement was instrumental in creating a sense of togetherness and collective purpose among those fighting for civil rights and equality. Without the influence of Martin Luther King Jr., the landscape of the Black Power movement could have taken a different trajectory. The absence of King, known for his nonviolent approach to civil rights activism, might have led to a more militant and confrontational stance within the movement. Black Power advocates, such as Malcolm X and the Black Panthers, emphasized self-defense, empowerment, and separatism. Without King's message of integration and peaceful protest, the movement might have focused more on challenging systemic racism through direct action and radical means. The Black Power movement could have evolved more rapidly and assertively without the moderating influence of King. Instead of seeking cooperation and dialogue with the white establishment, activists might have pursued a more confrontational approach, potentially leading to heightened tensions and violent clashes with authorities. The absence of King's moral authority and charisma could have also resulted in a more fragmented and decentralized movement, with various factions pursuing divergent strategies and goals. Furthermore, without King's advocacy for nonviolence and his ability to mobilize broad-based support, the Black Power movement might have faced greater resistance and repression from the government and mainstream society. The lack of a unifying figure like King could have made it harder to garner public sympathy and international support for the cause of racial justice. Overall, the absence of Martin Luther King Jr. could have catalyzed a more radical, militant, and divisive evolution of the Black Power movement, potentially shaping the course of the civil rights struggle in a more confrontational direction. Imagine a world where history took a different turn, where pivotal figures like Martin Luther King Jr. were absent from the stage of change. In this alternate reality, the push for criminal justice reform and an end to police brutality may have followed a vastly different trajectory. King's influential role in the civil rights movement and his advocacy for nonviolent resistance played a crucial part in shaping public opinion and policy decisions. Without King's leadership and moral authority, the movement for racial equality may have faced greater challenges and obstacles. King's strategies of peaceful protest and civil disobedience helped to garner widespread support and sympathy for the cause. His absence could have led to a more fragmented and contentious approach to activism, potentially resulting in more violent confrontations and less effective advocacy for change. Moreover, King's powerful speeches and ability to mobilize mass demonstrations brought national attention to issues of systemic racism and police brutality. His absence could have meant a lack of a unifying voice to articulate the grievances of marginalized communities and hold authorities accountable for their actions. The momentum for reform may have been slower, with fewer opportunities for meaningful dialogue and progress. In this alternate history, the struggle for criminal justice reform and an end to police brutality might have unfolded in a less cohesive and impactful manner. The absence of King's vision and leadership would have undoubtedly left a void in the fight for equality and justice, shaping the course of history in unexpected ways. In exploring alternate histories and what-if scenarios, it's fascinating to consider the connections that historical figures may have had with movements like feminism and the fight for gender equality. When it comes to King, his impact on civil rights and social justice is well documented, but his involvement in the feminist movement is less widely known. However, King did have connections to the feminist movement through his interactions with key female activists and thinkers of his time. One notable connection King had with the feminist movement was his collaboration with influential feminist leaders such as Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan. While their primary focuses differed, they shared a common goal of challenging societal norms and advocating for equality. King's support for women's rights was evident in his speeches and writings, where he often emphasized the importance of gender equality as a fundamental aspect of justice and human rights. Moreover, King's own family life and personal relationships shed light on his views on gender equality. His wife, Coretta Scott King, was a prominent activist in her own right, advocating for both civil rights and women's rights. King's partnership with Coretta and his recognition of her contributions to the movement highlighted his belief in the importance of women's voices and leadership in the struggle for equality. Overall, while King is primarily remembered for his role in the civil rights movement, his connections with feminist leaders and his support for gender equality demonstrate a broader commitment to social justice and inclusivity. By exploring these connections, we can gain a more nuanced understanding of King's legacy and the intersectionality of various social movements in shaping history. In this alternate history scenario, imagine a world where Martin Luther King Jr. had not emerged as a prominent leader in the civil rights movement of the 1960s. King's absence would have undoubtedly had a significant impact on the visibility and representation of African Americans in mainstream media and culture. King's powerful speeches, nonviolent protests, and unwavering commitment to racial equality played a crucial role in bringing attention to the struggles and injustices faced by African Americans during that era. His leadership helped to galvanize support for the civil rights movement and brought about important legislative changes that aimed to end segregation and discrimination. Without King's influence, the civil rights movement may have taken a different trajectory, potentially leading to slower progress in advancing the rights of African Americans. The absence of his moral authority and strategic leadership could have resulted in a more fragmented and less cohesive movement, making it harder to garner widespread support and achieve meaningful change. In terms of media representation, King's absence would have likely meant fewer opportunities for African Americans to have their voices heard and stories told in mainstream outlets. King was not only a symbol of hope and inspiration for African Americans, but also a figure who captured the attention of the nation and the world. His absence would have left a void in the media landscape, potentially limiting the visibility of African American issues and experiences. Overall, King's absence in this alternate history would have had far-reaching implications for the visibility and representation of African Americans in mainstream media and culture. It serves as a reminder of the profound impact that individual leaders can have on shaping narratives and influencing social change. Imagine a world where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., a prominent figure in the civil rights movement, did not exist. In this alternate history, the commemoration and remembrance of key civil rights events would undoubtedly be vastly different. Without Dr. King's leadership and influence, the strategies, tactics, and outcomes of various protests and movements might have taken alternative paths. One key aspect to consider is the impact Dr. King had on the way civil rights events are remembered and commemorated today. His powerful speeches, such as the iconic "I Have a Dream" speech, have become ingrained in the collective memory of society. Without his presence, the tone and messaging of these events may have been altered, leading to a different narrative being told. Furthermore, Dr. King's role in organizing peaceful protests and advocating for nonviolent resistance played a significant part in shaping the civil rights movement. Without his emphasis on peaceful means of protest, the movement may have taken a more radical turn, potentially leading to different outcomes and public perceptions. In the absence of Dr. King, other leaders and activists would have likely stepped up to fill the void, each bringing their own unique perspectives and approaches to the table. This could have resulted in a more diverse range of strategies being employed, leading to a more fragmented and varied civil rights movement. Overall, the commemoration and remembrance of key civil rights events without Dr. King would have been a reflection of the different paths that the movement could have taken. While his absence would have undoubtedly changed the course of history, it is important to recognize the contributions of all individuals involved in the fight for civil rights and the impact they have had on society as a whole. King's influence extended far beyond the borders of the United States, significantly reshaping the perception of African Americans in the international community. His advocacy for civil rights and nonviolent resistance inspired people around the world to stand up against oppression and injustice. King's speeches and actions resonated with individuals in various countries, sparking movements for equality and justice globally. His message of unity, peace, and equality transcended cultural and geographical boundaries, making him a symbol of hope and progress for marginalized communities worldwide. By challenging systemic racism and advocating for social change, King helped to elevate the status of African Americans on the global stage, showcasing their resilience, dignity, and humanity to audiences around the world. Through his leadership and vision, King played a crucial role in promoting a more inclusive and equitable world for all. In the realm of alternate histories and what-if scenarios, one cannot help but wonder about the lasting impact of influential figures on the course of history. Take, for example, the legacy of King, a visionary leader whose passion for equality and justice reverberated across generations. King's tireless advocacy for civil rights and social change set a powerful precedent for future activists and advocates to follow. His unwavering commitment to nonviolent resistance and his ability to inspire mass movements have served as a beacon of hope for those striving to create a more just and equitable society. King's legacy continues to inspire individuals and groups around the world, to stand up against injustice and inequality. His message of love, unity, and peaceful protest has been embraced by countless social movements seeking to bring about positive change. From the civil rights struggles of the 1960s to the contemporary movements for racial justice and equality, King's influence can be felt in the actions and words of those who continue to fight for a better world. Moreover, King's emphasis on the power of grassroots organizing and community mobilization has left a lasting impact on the strategies employed by modern activists. By highlighting the importance of collective action and solidarity, King paved the way for future generations to come together and effect meaningful change. His legacy serves as a reminder that individuals have the power to shape history and that perseverance in the face of adversity can lead to transformative outcomes. In conclusion, King's legacy as a champion of social justice and equality has had a profound influence on future generations of activists and advocates for change. By embodying the principles of nonviolence, unity, and perseverance, King set a powerful example for those seeking to challenge injustice and build a more inclusive society. His impact continues to be felt today, reminding us of the enduring power of hope, courage, and solidarity in the pursuit of a more just and equitable world. In an alternate history where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was absent from the civil rights movement, the dialogue around reparations for historical injustices against African Americans may have taken a different turn. King's influential leadership and advocacy for equality played a crucial role in shaping the national conversation on civil rights and racial justice. His absence could have resulted in a less unified and impactful movement, potentially slowing down progress towards addressing systemic inequalities and seeking reparations for past wrongs. Without King's powerful voice and nonviolent approach, the civil rights movement might have faced greater challenges in mobilizing support and effecting meaningful change. The absence of his strategic vision and ability to galvanize mass participation could have led to a more fragmented and less effective movement, impacting the momentum behind efforts to secure reparations for African Americans who have long suffered from historical injustices. Furthermore, King's absence may have altered the public perception of the civil rights movement and its objectives. His moral authority and commitment to nonviolent resistance helped shape the movement's narrative and garnered widespread sympathy and support. Without his leadership, the discourse around reparations could have been overshadowed by more radical or divisive voices, potentially hindering progress towards achieving justice and restitution for African American communities. Overall, King's absence from the civil rights movement would have undoubtedly left a significant void in the fight for racial equality and reparations for historical injustices against African Americans. His legacy continues to inspire